Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka from 5 Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. First of all, Happy New Year. I hope that all of your language learning dreams come true this year, and I'm here to help you with that. So I'm going to be sharing with you lots of advice in 2021, and I hope I can help you with your language learning. So today I've got a video for you with some hacks or study techniques for memorizing things, and these things can be used in lots of different situations, no matter what you're learning, but they will be particularly useful for language learners. So let's get started. So the first one is a technique that I talk about a lot in my other videos. It's spaced repetition. And spaced repetition is basically a way of learning that means that you're not just learning something once and then forgetting about it and moving on, but you're kind of coming back to the same thing over and over again, but you're increasing the intervals at which you're coming back to that thing. So for example, you're learning one word and then you're leaving a gap of 2 days before you review it again, and then you leave a gap of a week, of a month, and so on and so on. And that way you're coming back to the same thing, making sure that it still is fresh in your memory. I've got a separate video about that, so make sure you check it out as well. I'll link it in the description box below. My second tip is another one that I've mentioned in my previous videos. It's called Mnemonics, and it's a way of memorizing vocabulary or phrases in a foreign language that basically involves creating pictures and kind of images and associations between those images in your head and the way that the word that you're trying to learn sounds. I'm not going to go into too much detail of that because, like I said, I've got a separate video about mnemonics, so make sure you check it out. But essentially, you're just creating an image that somehow reminds you of how the word sounds, and that makes it easier to memorize. My third tip is quite a kind of controversial one maybe, but basically I encourage you when you're trying to memorize things to create a cheat sheet. So imagine you're going into an exam and you're writing a little cheat sheet for yourself that you're going to hide and you're going to use if you forget something. Because when we create those cheat sheets, we tend to focus on the things that are the most difficult for us, the most difficult to remember, or the most difficult to kind of recall when we're in an exam environment. So I encourage you to create a cheat sheet on which you will be writing down those kind of difficult words, difficult phrases that you're trying to memorize. And that will encourage you to kind of solidify them in your memory. And you can then review those cheat sheets. You can do it as part of your spaced repetition as well. My fourth tip is about using multiple resources for learning the same thing. So that's a technique for memorizing things that will really improve your results. And basically what you're doing is, for example, if you're learning one word, you can use lots of different dictionaries to look up that word. So I'm talking about single language dictionaries, monolingual dictionaries. So you look up different definitions of the same word. Those definitions will be phrased in different ways, and that will basically encourage you to kind of understand the word more fully and also to review it several times every time you look it up. The same goes for learning grammar points. If you're learning about a tense in a foreign language, look it up in one book, then look it up in another book, look it up in another resource, and use 3 or 4 different resources to look up the same thing. And that will encourage you to really spend enough time on memorizing that one thing and give you different perspectives of how this thing can be explained, which can sometimes improve your understanding of it. The next one is another big one: learn things in context. So that is probably one of my favorite hacks for memorizing things in a foreign language. Make sure that you've got that context. So whenever you're looking up a new word, look it up in a sentence, look for examples of sentences. You can Google it as well to see it in context, in writing. You can also look up images of that thing just to kind of help your memory make associations between what it looks like or what it is and what the word is for it. The next one is another big one: teaching somebody else. So teaching other people really is a great way of learning yourself, because you're repeating that material that you've just learned, and you're also encouraging yourself to recall it, because often the problem with learning vocabulary is that we can remember it, but when we need to use it in a conversation, it becomes difficult because we can't recall it. We can't sort of dig it out of our memory. And teaching somebody else is a way to practice that recall aspect of learning. So you're teaching somebody, you're recalling the thing, you're digging it out of your memory, and that helps you learn as well. The next one is recording yourself. You can record yourself and then you can watch it back to see whether you've made certain mistakes. So often when we're speaking a foreign language, we will make mistakes and we will not be able to notice them whilst we're speaking because we're convinced that what we're saying is right. I mean, that's why we're trying to speak well, because we think we're choosing the right structures, the right vocabulary. But when you actually watch it back, you will be able to spot certain things that you want to improve on. So maybe you will spot a grammar mistake that you made or a pronunciation mistake, or you will notice that there is something wrong with your pronunciation or accent or stress. So I encourage you to record yourself, using the vocabulary that you're learning, using the grammar structures that you're learning. And that will also help you memorize it, because you will be producing the language by creating a recording, and then you will be reviewing that by listening to yourself or watching the video in which you've used the language. My next one is a great hack. It's not really a hack, but it's just something that you should be doing on a regular basis, and it's about rewarding yourself or treating yourself to something once you've done a good job. So, whenever you've memorized new words and you can remember them, you can recall them, make sure that you celebrate that success, because that is a really great way to motivate yourself, to stay motivated when learning a foreign language. Okay, number 9 is writing by hand. And writing by hand is definitely a great way for many people to memorize things better. Because when you write by hand, it is a slower process than typing. And there is also something about it that encourages learning. So I encourage you to have a paper notebook in which you write things down if you want to memorize them. And the final one is, whenever you are memorizing anything, whenever you're learning, you can kind of get burnt out very quickly. Well, not burnt out, but kind of tired, and you lose your concentration. So what I like to use personally is a technique called Pomodoro technique, which is basically timing, 20 or 25 minutes, and then taking a 5-minute break. So you can find something I use online is called Tomato Timer. It's a timer that you can set, and then the alarm goes off after 20 minutes, and then you've got a 5-minute break to kind of regenerate. It's a great way of learning because it encourages you to have those intensive sprints in which you're learning, and then you take a little break to refresh your brain, so to speak, and you can move on to the next 20-minute session. So I definitely encourage you to do that to improve your memorization. So this is it, the 10 tips for memorizing things in a foreign language, for learning, study hacks, whatever you want to call it. I hope you found them useful. Let me know what your favorite hack is in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Bye.